Okay, thanks very much. I just want to start with paying tribute to the people that have organised today's conference, because it was set out not to be a conference of thousands, but of hundreds of people who could have a genuinely participative discussion. That was what Duncan and others who worked so hard on this in Dundee set out, and I think that's been achieved. That they've managed to have an open discussion, disagreements, debate, analysis about what's happened before us, with an honest sense of appraisal about the independence movement. Not just where things went right, but where we need to improve and where we need to go. I want to underline, as well as saying that we have to recognise that this is yet another staging post in the development of the radical left in Scotland. That is a non-sectarian, open dialogue between people who, yes, have different views, but who unite around the principles that we in the Radical Independence Campaign fight for. That is something in and of itself which is an achievement. That people feel able to come to a meeting of the radical left and express themselves and be part of a campaign that actually is talking to the grassroots, that is led by the grassroots. And there I want to just mention one other thing that I think needs to be recognised in concluding comments today, which is that we, like other organisations, have been going through quite a rigorous process, led by the Aberdeen RIC group in conjunction with Dundee and Edinburgh, about a really progressive constitution for the Radical Independence Campaign. Like other campaigns, we operated on a very flexible basis. There was local autonomy. Things, I think, generally went pretty well, but actually there were areas where we were weak. And what this document does, it's fantastic. It offers us as a campaign the opportunity to open a new chapter, because it will allow for much more diversity of organisation. It will allow for much more of the sorts of things that we've talked about today to be put into practice, and details of that will be circulated publicly over the coming weeks. So congratulations to the people who have been involved in pulling this brilliant piece of work together. Also, just to say, before I just make some comments about where I think we go, about the nature of the current political situation with regards to the general election, and with regards to the surge in membership of political parties. Because lots of people, I think, have drawn a wrong conclusion from this. They've said to themselves that the only thing that matters now is political parties. The only thing that matters now is the general election. The truth of the matter is that we need to continue to stand in a tradition that says that social movements are the lifeblood of social transformation. That is the only thing which has pushed political parties, which has challenged the status quo, the established orthodoxy in society, in history. If you look at the anti-apartheid movement, the civil rights movement, you look at modern day examples of, for example, in Greece, where it's the social movement that keeps alive the hope of there being an alternative to austerity. What have we done since the referendum? We've held a conference of 3,000 people, we've held a demonstration of over 1,000 in support of the people of Greece, a conference on fracking, today's event. We've went through a process of discussion about how we should organise ourselves. All of this, to me, suggests a level of political maturity on the radical left, which, to be honest, we should all be proud of. We have got ourselves into a situation where we're quite able to have a disagreement, quite able to be reasonable with one another about how we move things forward. That's vitally important for political organisations, and it's something that we have to keep in our heads as the momentum of the campaign continues. So, what does all this mean in terms of where radical independence goes? Well, that's clearly up for discussion, up for debate, and will be had right throughout the country with work as the months go on. But I think one of the key things that we've got to do is we've got to keep stressing the points that we made during the referendum. I think now there is a deliberate strategy by unionism in Britain to create a sense of there being competing nationalisms. There is, on the one hand, Scottish nationalism, and on the other, British nationalism. That's what they're trying to do when they draw these cartoons of Nicola Sturgeon and so on and so forth. We have to restate the principles of the movement. We have to restate the idea that we are not in this for nationalistic purposes. We are in this because we believe we must break the power of the British state, break the power of Westminster in order to advance a progressive social and political agenda. So restating why we fought and why we continue to fight, I think, is an important thing to do. We can't go down the road of simply being fueled by anger and hatred about the Labour Party, being fueled by this sense of the movement becoming centralised under the SNP. We need to keep the movement diverse, we need to keep it radical, because it's the radical ideas, we shouldn't forget about this, which actually inspired a whole number of people to get involved, actively engaged, and start asking questions beyond the constitutional framework, but questions about how society runs, about who has power, about why these people have power and why they aren't challenged. So, in conclusion, we've got still a lot of work to do. We've got still a huge mountain to climb in terms of getting to where we want to be. But we have at our disposal now a whole number of levers which we didn't have before. Now the left is thinking not just in terms of propaganda, but in terms of an agenda. Now the left is thinking not just about how it can pack out a room for a rally, but how do we make that rally something which is genuinely discursive, genuinely open to there being the possibility of a discussion and, yes, a debate about a way forward. And lastly, I just want to say that political representation is changing in Scotland and changing in the UK. I think that, for example, the Greens should be on the STV debate. I would actually go further and say that it would be fantastic if Maggie was on that debate, putting the case, not just, in my view, about Green Party politics, but from someone who's actually been part and parcel of the development of the radical independence campaign. These are the sorts of things I think we need to fight for, and therefore I just want to end on saying that, one thing that we have to do, and I think that sometimes we have to recognise that we're not always the best at this. We see when we do something right, like today, enjoy it. People deserve it. There's a sense in which to retain momentum in a movement, you have to actually stand back and look, okay, we did well today. This was a good thing. Now let's move on to see how we can develop from there. But sometimes we don't do that in politics because it's so fast-paced, because the situation is currently changing. But we have to look out for ourselves. And I think that I'm proud, really proud, to be part of a campaign where there's a real sense that we can continue to work together and go forward with a new constitution, with a new vitality about our politics over the coming months. It's exciting times, so please do get involved in the campaign and in the surrounding campaigns. We should see ourselves as being part not just of radical independence, but also part of the building and developing Women for Independence and all the other organisations that exist as well. And hopefully we can get to a point where, as Carolyn mentioned, all of those organisations can actually come together at some stage and have a discussion about strategy and tactics, which actually means that we retain our independent objectives, retain our own particular forms of political expression, but also create a shared agenda which can push forward not just the movement for independence, but fundamentally for social justice.